Good morning, this is meteorologist Steve Krasnowski, and this is your weather briefing storm scoop. It is Monday, September 21st, 2020, and we'll call this one running out of Greek yogurt because when we last spoke, we were just talking about how the next storm would be alpha and then beta and so on and so on. And literally as I hit the send button to post the video, Alpha was named and quickly admonished into the depths of never weather again. And now we have Beta, who we're talking about, and it just seems we're going to fly through the Greek alphabet as well. It's been such a crazy year in terms of the activity that is variant in the tropics. It's exciting, but it's also very tiring to keep up with everything that's going along with it. So, as we always do, let's jump in and see what we got going on. It'll look a little bit different today. So, you can see there's a little bit less going on out in the Atlantic, even in the Gulf. Hurricane Center lost interest in the Florida swirl. There was a bit of controversy this weekend about some remnants of Sally that have just kind of been swirling, and wanted to see whether it might reinvigorate and redevelop into something that won't be happening. So here are some remnants. We're going to call it the Florida swirl's little cousin. This is possible for development after doing a U-turn over Cuba. We'll see what happens. And you can see it do a little loop-de-loop here. Time will tell for that. We'll talk a lot about Teddy today, and do a recon for it tomorrow as well. So I'm reanalyzing it. So let's look at what's going on with Beta. This is a small convective burst, comes and goes near the center of that. Probably continues on and off throughout the day. No surprises expected here. It's much of a no-show. Just a lot of rain, some flooding, nothing like we've seen in the past. You can see in the 500 millibar chart a large elongated mid-upper level of circulation with the lower level system embedded within. You can't really do much with this scenario if seeking intensification, so a strong system was never in this cards anyway. It just wasn't going to be sitting over the water. It wasn't tapped for that. You can see a very poor environment all around, and that will keep it condensed and in check. So the environment is just not conducive for anything happening here. It'll wither away and die out. This is the inner core evaluation. I don't really talk about this very much, but it's nothing special. After it tried to form an eye earlier today, it failed. It's something to be grateful for, but doesn't mean it still isn't serious. So you can see there is some moderate flooding, mostly minor, that will be expected. Sorry, it's Monday, but nothing major. These areas are still trying to dry out. They've had a lot of rainfall. So Teddy, let's look at Teddy. This is the hurricane recon from this morning, 11:25 Z, so probably around 7 this morning. As expected, they're finding winds that aren't quite as intense as a couple days ago. It's definitely a more northern storm, so the waters aren't as rich and warm. But it extends much farther from the center, so there is something to say about that. The trend will continue as the storm undergoes extratropical transition tonight and tomorrow. If you might remember, Hurricane Sandy was a very famous storm that did this. It became extratropical. And there are still arguments to this day of whether Sandy hitting was at a hurricane or a subtropical or extratropical storm, and that'll probably continue. How similar are Sandy and Teddy's forecasts? Here's a side-to-side look. Each event's pattern. The key takeaway is both were captured by upper-level lows while transitioning, but Sandy's baroclinic support was much, much stronger. So let me just go back. Hold on. Sorry, I didn't mean to click ahead. So you can see these are the upper levels. They definitely captured Obviously, Teddy's way offshore. This will shoot off into Nova Scotia. Models did okay. They did find that little jog that we were talking about. Maybe because we were very interested in northern New England, particularly Maine. If I put this into motion, you would see it definitely jogged there, but it corrected and found itself on a more northerly track. So consider that bullet dodged. The gem, the wind gust, this is in kilometers just because it's heading into non-American areas. Windy conditions are anticipated today, tomorrow particularly, but outside the eastern folks, southeast coast, not sure if it's going to be all that overwhelming. Nova Scotia isn't really a stranger to high wind and high seas anyway, but the seas prediction is interesting. It's 16 to 31 feet, which is pretty high. The hurricane has been dug into by the trough and will be escorted northward before turning northeastward. The expectation is a decaying hurricane dropping down to storm force low strength upon final approach. And that's going to do it for the tropics today. Current temperatures, it was a cold morning. Lots of cold areas, particularly in the northeast, mid-Atlantic, where some areas saw their first freeze this morning. Lots of 30s and 40s out there. Right, there was actually, this is about 10 below normal for everyone. There's a few 20s out there. I know some areas in New Hampshire around the seacoast, and again up north, Maine, all fell into the 20s. Normal low is the 50s for New York, tri-state area, 40s for New England on September 21st. Water temps are, they're not where they are where they should be. They're no longer warming because there's a cooler sun and where the sun angle is at this time of year, but much more warmer at this point than the surrounding air. And let's take a look at some things for next week real quick. Next, some mid-level ridging tumbles east, coinciding with our surface high return flow. Warmer midweek. It's a reverted back cooler by this entity in the North Pacific that will drag a front towards our area by late next week. And that's probably into the mid-Atlantic northeast. Not much excitement going there. We are extremely dry, and the maps, the models are not looking at changing, at least in the next 15 days. And here we are, pretty dry the next 5 days, essentially everywhere except for the southeast, where they'll see precip from the remnants of beta. There'll be some additional thunderstorm activity as well, but that's the normal stuff. There'll be no significant threats of big wet rainmakers except for what's entering the Pacific Northwest at the end of the 5-day outlook. This will be interesting, but I think it kind of stays north, or just goes north if I remember. Drought. Okay, the drought monitor for the country. This came out on the 17th. It'll come out again on the 24th. You can see that a lot of the areas that have gotten impacted by tropical storms and hurricanes, they're all pretty good in terms of rainfall. Although there are areas along the coast, like in Texas, that are having a significant drought. In the areas of the Midwest and further out west, you can see a lot of these areas where we have concerns, and we talked about the fire, and you can see the droughts not supporting those emergency crews there. And again, out in the Northeast, which is a little odd. Severe drought in many places. In Rhode Island, you have a really severe drought. A lot of even in New Hampshire, pretty much along the whole seacoast, Maine, just the rain is really missing out. It's really been staying tri-state, mid-Atlantic. It's just really been a dry year. So that'll do it for me today. I'm going kind of long. We'll see you tomorrow.